Keeper of the Lost Cities, Everblaze. Chapter 40. News of the fire spread faster than the Everblaze, and when Sophie came downstairs for breakfast, a scroll from the council sat waiting on the kitchen table. Sophie sank into her chair next to Grady and took one of the colorful pastries from the platter in the center. The gooey cake was covered in sugar and sprinkles, but it turned sour in her mouth when she read the council's message. Tomorrow, at midday, we will honor the life and legacy of Councillor Kenrick Elgar Fathon by planting his seed in the Wanderling Woods. An address from the council will follow, along with instructions for nominations proceeding. What do they mean by nominations? Sophie asked, rolling up the scroll so she wouldn't have to look at it. Nominations for the next councillor. They're replacing him already? They have to, Sophie. The very foundation of our world has been shattered, and we must rebuild it immediately. That doesn't mean we won't grieve, but we must also keep working to protect our people. You can't tell me that's not what Kenrick would have wanted. She couldn't, but she still hated it. She stood, wandering to the wall of windows, watching the dinosaurs graze in the pasture below. How do the nominations work? She asked, not sure she'd be able to survive a long campaign with speeches and debates. Grady moved to stand beside her. The public will be allowed to privately submit nominations for members of the nobility who qualify for consideration. Then, the council will ultimately decide. And how long does it normally take? It depends on how quickly the councilors agree, but I suspect this time we'll move incredibly quickly. I only hope they'll elect a councillor as compassionate and considerate as Kenrick. Sophie couldn't help hoping the new councillor would also be on her side. She hated to admit it, hated herself for even thinking it. But Kenrick had always been one of her stronger supporters. Losing even one vote could sway the ruling against her. Is there any chance you or Alden would be nominated? She asked quietly. No, thankfully. The councillors aren't allowed to be married. It's their responsibility to make decisions for the good of all people, and having a wife or children could threaten their impartiality. But what if they fall in love? Then they can choose to resign from the council, which definitely has happened in the past. Or they can opt to ignore those feelings. The choice is entirely up to them. Suddenly, Kenrick's longing looks at Oralee made much more sense, which made Sophie's heart extra heavy. Kenrick sacrificed so much for the good of his world, and look how his world had repaid him. No, not his whole world, Sophie corrected. A small band with their own agenda. Villains. She was tired of calling them rebels. They were kidnappers, killers, and she was going to stop them. I've seen that look in your eye before, Sophie, Grady said, resting a hand on her shoulder, and I can't say I blame you for it. I also doubt I can stop you, so I'm only going to ask you one thing. Remember who you can trust, and keep them close. Don't push them away. Sophie nodded, and he pulled her into a hug. If I might add something, Sandor said from behind them, I would like to renew my request for you to stay by my side. I am already getting reports of highly increased unrest among the public, and I fear in the coming days you may need more protection than normal. Because everybody blames me, Sophie mumbled, trying to pull away from Grady. Grady tightened his grip. The people of our world fear the new and the different, but you are brave and strong and smart enough to not believe what they say. Trust your friends and your family. Know that they love you and will support you no matter what. And keep your bodyguard close, Sandor added. Yes, and that, Grady sighed, trailing his hand through Sophie's hair. I know you don't want to talk about yesterday, Sophie, and I respect that. But if you change your mind, I'm here. Sophie squeezed him tighter, blinking back her tears. She wasn't going to cry. She was going to fight. By the way, Grady said, slowly letting her go, Tiergan asked me to tell you to record everything you remember from yesterday, not just what you saw in Fenton's mind. The council is trying to piece together what happened during the fire. Sophie's eyes dropped to her feet. I doubt I'm going to be much help. If Fitz hadn't warned me about the Everblaze, I probably wouldn't have realized what was happening until it was too late. I think that was Fenton's plan." Grady's expression turned murderous, but he said nothing as Sophie turned and headed upstairs. She pulled out her memory log and spent the rest of the day fighting to remember anything that might give her something to go on. She projected the memory Fenton had once again managed to stop her from recovering, and placed it side by side with her other project from the first break with Alden. She could see more of the mysterious pyrokinetic's robe, though there was nothing special about it, except perhaps the vivid red color. She could also see the shape of his face. The edges were blurred, but his chin was prominent, and his dark hair looked neatly styled. So he was probably somebody who cared about his appearance. Probably, Sophie thought bitterly, shoving the memory log aside. All she could do was guess and speculate about pointless details, hardly the revelation she needed. She was about to close the log and tuck it away when she noticed one final difference between the two projected scenes. She'd been concentrating so hard on her kidnapper, she'd forgotten to notice that she could see more of Fenton too, especially in the early part of the memory, when he was pointing at the star he was teaching the kidnapper to call. His cloak was black, with long, thick sleeves, and near the top of his shoulder was a white patch with an eye. Keith had seen the same patch on the rebels, so to see Fenton wearing it wasn't necessarily earth-shattering, but she could see a word this time, written in runes, that she wouldn't have expected to be able to read. The word triggered no memories in her mind, so the Black Swan must not be familiar with it. But the nameless rebels had a name. Never seen.